Today on Locked On Rockies, we got to talk about this bullpen. A key piece for the Colorado Rockies' success is in that bullpen.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 31st day of March. I'm your host, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Proud to be your first listen of the day. I'm Rockies fan extraordinaire Paul Holden. I'm also on the airwaves here in the Pacific Northwest, and you can find a ton more examples of my work at paulfholden.com, also on Chatpack and Groovy Soup on your favorite streaming service if you want to see more of what I do. But what we do on this show is talk Colorado Rockies baseball, because that's what we do around here. We love the Rockies. We love talking Rockies. And there's a big topic that I feel like I haven't really touched on a ton this off season with my thoughts on just the regular the off season and the lockout, with the changes in the front office, the big names brought in, and the new looks on offense. I haven't talked about arguably a position and an area the Rockies struggled with mightily last year, and that's the bullpen. And I don't think we've talked enough about the bullpen so far and going in there. And, perfect timing right before we were getting ready, at least yesterday. Our friends over at Purple Row did their assessment of the Colorado Rockies bullpen, the state of the position, the bullpen. So we're going to head over there and talk about Rockies bullpen today. And we'll take a look at some of the people that we see, some of the numbers that people are expecting, and how important it is for this ball club to have a good, not only performance from their new closer, most likely there, but also from two players that I think are key to the Rockies' success this season, and it will be Carlos Estevez and Daniel Bard. Daniel Bard was on Pitching Ninja with that 99-mile-an-hour sinker. I don't know if you saw it over there, but it was phenomenal. It was a beautiful pitch, and it looked great. I'm really excited to see what this new role does for Daniel Bard. I'm really hoping that a new position, a new identity, and a new role on a team that believes in him a ton and has given him a lot of opportunity can thrive. And I think that's going to be good for Daniel Bard. We've talked about Bard in the past, but I just wanted to bring it up a little bit because we saw that sharp pitching. I know the Rockies have let up a lot of runs in spring training their past couple of games, especially late. That's what we're talking about a little bit here at spring training again, though. So every single thing you look at a spring training game, you still take that grain of salt as well. But we're also hoping for big things from Carlos Estevez. I think those two can be a really nice 1-2 punch. If both of those players are going to be in the position to get into a game, and it goes from Bard to Estevez, and they're able to keep the game close, I think we're going to have a nice, our nice new closer coming in there and being able to shut the door. Colome. I'm still getting the names. I got to be getting more into the broadcast. I haven't been able to listen as much as just kind of have the game on in the background with spring training. But as we talked about a little bit before and earlier this week, Bud Black does see the Rockies free agent signing their Colome. Colome. I think it's Colome is how you pronounce it. But he's got the front runner spot for the position of closer, which is going to be nice. It'll be good to see that the Rockies kind of went out and got someone with the idea in mind of them being the closer. So that means that they've already talked about and discussed with Estevez and Bard their roles of being the setup and relief, which I think they'll be great. I think you could still see Estevez come in and close some games out. I would find it more likely that the Rockies turn to Carlos Estevez to close out some ball games than Daniel Bard at this point. But again, both of those pitchers leading into hopefully a closer that's going to be able to come in and help shut the door for the Rockies. We have to see, of course, with the regular season. This new look bullpen is that's just the strong foundation of it. And we're not even talking about how there was a story I think on Mile High Report there that Trevor Lawrence might be a nice X factor for the Rockies. The flamethrower would be huge to come in if the Rockies have someone that can accurately throw 100 miles an hour for an inning to just shut down any form of a rally or anything late to just kind of to slam the brakes on anything, especially some of these high-powered offenses in the NL West and a couple of the other young guys. So let's head over to Purple Rose, state of the position. Let's it's Colome. Colome, I think is what we're doing. Veterans Alex Colome, Daniel Bard, and Carlos Estevez battle for A-list late innings while 2021 debuts round the relief corps. This is from Justin Wick over here again on Purple Rose, their Rocky state of the position. There is a combined 37 and a half years of MLB service in the Rockies' projected bullpen this year. Per Fangraphs, Julius Chassin and Colome make up 50% of that service on their own. And this is basically what the projected bullpen is. Again, we got the closer there, Alex there, Carlos Estevez, Daniel Bard, Roberts as the Carlos Estevez in the 8th, Daniel Bard in the 7th. Middle relief, Robert Stevenson, Lucas Gilbreth, Julius Chassin, Tyler Kinley, and Justin Lawrence. Long relief, Jordan Sheffield, Ty Block. The surprise of the season so far. I mean, he's gone in there and he's really made a case for himself to make this team, which is going to be an interesting way to shake this up. But this has been a journeyman trying to get into the game in the big show for a while, and I believe he's also a Colorado native. So it'd be very, very cool if he can get in there and play a role for the Rockies here. But back to Justin's article here. We haven't seen this kind of service time from Colorado relievers since the super bullpen experiment with Wade Davis, Jake McGee, and Brian Shaw. The team spent a lot less money for experience this time around. Colome 1 year, $4.1 million. Chassin 1 year, $1.25 million. Alex is not the closer Wade Davis was supposed to be, as his contract will suggest. He's still in position to make late inning statements, and Fangraphs has gone as far as placing him as the projected closer, even ahead of Daniel Bard, making more money. Colorado had 5 different relief pitchers make MLB debuts in 2021: Lucas Gilbreth, Justin Lawrence, Jordan Sheffield, Ben Bowden, and Julian Fernandez. And all 5 are back with the organization. This alone shows the relief corps is more prepared. And after all, we were shut out for a minor league season in 2020. Perhaps the true test of their worth is not 2021, but the 2022 season in front of us. The Rockies lost the services of Michael Givens this past year, a 2022 trade deadline pickup that departed in 2021 the same way he arrived. Colorado has also parted ways with Yency Almonte this year after a stellar 2020 turned into a dismal 2021. He recently signed to the Dodgers, so cover your eyes. Those that remember Jake McGee's post-Colorado path. The bullpen is usually the most volatile of the state of position for the Purple Road team, but some preliminary signs show 2022 can be more stable than 2021. I want to highlight what I think is an important part from that breakdown there. But first, I got to tell you about our wonderful sponsor today, and that is BetOnline. Yes, BetOnline is the place to go for all your sports betting action. And after months of playing, college basketball has determined the top teams for the Final Four and will determine this year's national champion coming up real soon. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, you name it, BetOnline remains the best spot for all your latest sports developments, including podcasts and reviews for all the leagues this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device, whatever you got, to learn more about the trends in action at BetOnline. We're going to talk more about some BetOnline numbers tomorrow on the pod, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, go win some money at BetOnline, where the game starts. So the thing I wanted to talk about in this article that I really thought it was interesting, and I think is going to be a really big storyline for the Rockies, is that number of pitchers making their debuts in 2021. Lucas Gilbreth, Justin Lawrence, Jordan Sheffield, Ben Bowden, and Julian Fernandez. I can't remember if it's Julian or Julian. I can't remember. But anyway, the young arms there, not having a minor league season, making their MLB debuts in 2021 after not having a minor league season in 2020, mixed with the lockout season, mixed with all this, there is a lot of out of the norm experiences for these young arms. For them to maybe have now gone through that experience, had the experience of the first year and know what goes into a major league season, you can take that mentality into your spring training and into the beginning of the season and be able to develop. And I think this is going to be key for the Rockies. Staying in games is going to be crucial because I think sometimes this is again something the Rockies have to be better in. We saw it so much last year where the Rockies had leads late or they were in games and then it just completely falls apart after the sixth or seventh when the bullpen comes into factor. The starting rotation honestly kept the Rockies in too many games and is too good to not get more support. But for now, these young arms to have a year of experience, to the pandemic is kind of in the rear view in terms of that super weirdness of the 2020 season and going to different camps and training and not knowing where you're going to be and playing like that. These arms with a year with somewhat of a year of experience under their belt could be crucial for the Rockies. I'm really, really excited by Trevor Lawrence, and I'm really, really excited by Gilbreth too, because he had such a strong end of the season last year as well. And who doesn't love the fact that the Rockies have someone that they can turn to just come in and throw some absolute smoke? That's stuff that I think is going to provide a nice little mix-up for the Rockies, especially if they're going to turn to someone like Daniel Bard, have Lawrence come in, throw some smoke, get some people off balance, and then Daniel Bard can come in with his pitches with them late movements and sinkers and things to really mess up and mess with the timing of batters. Let's dive back in here. Purple Row, middle relievers: Robert Stevenson, Lucas Gilbreth, Julius Chacin, Tyler Kinley, Justin Lawrence, Ben Bowden, Julian Fernandez. Two of these arms will likely start in the season in AAA between Lawrence, Bowden, and Fernandez. Yeah, because you're definitely not taking Chacin's place. Gilbreth was too good, and Kinley's been around for a bit as well. There are no minor league options available for Stevenson or Chacin, so those are your two locks, at least to start the season. Again, we are reading from Youth Meets Experience in Colorado's 2022 Bullpen Rocky State of the Position from Justin Wick over here on Purple Row. We then have the four relievers that debuted in 2021 in the mix of middle relief, ranging from nasty low 3-4 Lawrence to the most experienced Gilbreth to the lefty Bowden to the flame-throwing Fernandez. The one additional arm is well-traveled Tyler Kinley. Colorado exercised a lot of minor league options with young relievers in 2021, treating the final spots in the bullpen as a revolving door between AAA Albuquerque. This was notably the case with Lawrence and Bowden, and it could run its course again, but the revolving door safety net will start to dwindle in 2023. I think the Rockies will be a lot more picky with sending arms up and down this year because I think they did want to see what they had. They wanted, since they didn't have the minor league season last year, they really just were saying, yeah, I think they did kind of see the writing on the wall. They looked and understood the position the Rockies were in and wanted to see at least what these arms look like at the major league level, what they look like as part of the club. It's interesting and to have such different arms as well. I like Tyler Kinley. Tyler Kinley has done a lot of good stuff. It's just how interesting is that going to be? Can we get another solid, productive year out of Chacin as well? Are these veterans, as these well-traveled two pieces of the Rockies bullpen, are they going to be a better addition to this club than going younger and going with some of these kind of unique personalities and some of these unique pieces that they have? There's nothing in the bullpen that's necessarily making you super excited. There's nothing in the bullpen that's kind of screaming confidence, but you're encouraged by the performance of the bullpen late last season because you see a lot of the similar pieces there. And with moving on from, unfortunately, Yency Almonte, which was kind of a bummer, I was really hoping. I had a lot of I really liked Yency, especially when he was dominant in that 2020 season. It's something that I think the Rockies still need to look at. And it's still something as they figure out how much of that outfield depth that they need, what type of position, where they're at, and the trade deadline's coming. The Rockies might want to look into still bolstering up this bullpen with something a little bit more of a more surefire vet, maybe someone that's a little bit on the younger side. But if Kinley and Chacin can perform as they did last year, they're going to be pretty all right for the Rockies. Again, they're not going to instill fear in anybody, but as long as they can come out and provide solid performances, we'll be okay. I am, however, a little bit more interested to see what that young core of middle relievers can do. I just like the fact that we do have the speed and the pitch velocity of Fernandez. I like that Lawrence has a unique and a different approach to being a pitcher. I think that's I just love when the Rockies embrace interesting players and interesting approaches and interesting techniques to the game, because I think embracing that is going to be another way to kind of build on this Colorado Rockies identity of kind of a different style of baseball. It's not that the Rockies are actually doing that. That's always the different identity of Rockies baseball that I always have floating in my head. So as much as the closer and the end of the game position is going to be the continued talk with the three big names of the bullpen, the real true anchor, I think the most interesting storyline of this season for the Rockies bullpen in terms of the players and the roster construction will be this middle relief core. I think the Rockies have a pretty good understanding of Daniel Bard and Carlos Estevez, especially with shifting them around in these new roles. Like I said, I cannot wait to see Daniel Bard in this new role, and I'm really excited to see what Estevez is capable of. But I really do want to see how the Rockies use and get performance from Lawrence, Bowden, Fernandez, and Gilbreth this year. I think Gilbreth, he's definitely kind of put his foot down. He's really there. He's going to be one of he is the most experienced out of all of those. So we'll see. It'll be interesting for this Rockies team, but they have to count on this bullpen. The Rockies simply need better bullpen performance from last year. It is something that the Rockies need. I mean, the Rockies, even with lower offensive numbers, with some of their struggles in terms of having a nice consistent offensive approach to games, still found themselves in winnable ball games, especially on the road. But how many, the Rockies were the king of the walk-off at home, but how many times did the Rockies get walked off in response? I mean, that series in Chicago is still just burned in my brain after the Cubs went fire sale, where the Rockies were kind of just sitting there in a position where it was just kind of, there was like a pulse still, maybe for people that weren't checked out, but those type of situations, those type of series are where this bullpen needs to come in and help bolster this Rockies team to slam the door shut and not let teams get themselves into situations to win late, especially teams that the Rockies should be better than. How the Diamondbacks outperform the Rockies this year will if that's the case, like Miller Thomas told us the other, when we did that crossover, the bullpen is going to play a major role in that, because I know the Rockies will score more runs this year just because they have a bunch of different, a much different approach to the offensive side. I don't know if it's going to be a ton of runs, but I think we will see an uptick in offense. We have to wait and see with this bullpen. We have to wait until real games come and see what happens. But there's just been some troubling trends from our pitchers in these spring training games of giving up a lot of runs, especially a little bit later in the game that we've seen in the past week or so. Again, spring training, not too worried, not super worried, but something we need to keep watching, something we need to keep monitoring, and something we need to keep our eyes out for. Dive into the live chat, talk a little bit more about some Rockies pitchers, and go down here to the final couple of pieces and a couple more notes from the bullpen. But before we do that, I just want to take this moment to tell you that you should go make your next listen, your second listen of the day, the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Rockies your first listen every day. Locked On MLB Prospects, host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep dive on the MLB stars of tomorrow. Should be your second listen of the day. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Diving into the live chat here, Devin, big fan of the show here. You're just in time, Adrian. We're taking some live questions right now in the chat. Devin says, our bullpen is pretty weak, but I have faith we'll get it together. I can trust Bard and Colomé, but after that, I have doubts. Maybe we can overachieve with the vets. Estevez, I hope, does well, but I'm not as high on him as others are, though I'll be rooting for him. Obviously, we're all rooting for everyone, and it's good to be reserved, but if it was me, I'd be more worried about Daniel Bard than Carlos Estevez. I think Carlos Estevez has just a little has evened out to be honestly a pretty fine piece for this Rockies bullpen and a nice utility piece for that bullpen. I'm glad to see that Estevez can come into games not only as a closer but also beforehand, and I think that he really kind of settled into a nice role for the Rockies last year. I really want to see how Daniel Bard does in this new role. And I really hope Daniel Bard embraces this role. And I hope he doesn't, I really hope that he doesn't take it as an insult, take it as a slight. I don't think he's the type of player that would take it like a slight. I don't think that's necessarily his mindset, especially at this point in his career. And the fact that he's gotten back to the major league level for yet another season. I mean, for Daniel Bard to continue to be on a starter on a major league roster. I know he's not a starter, but you know what I mean. He's a player that's going to get considerable playing time for the Rockies this season. I don't think he's going to be too hesitant to take on the new role of middle relief or setup there at the end. And I think he's going to be a solid option. If Daniel Bard and Carlos Estevez are good, that's a great sign for the Rockies, because I would say Daniel Bard he was fine, not good. If Daniel Bard can just settle into that role and really dominate the seventh inning, that's going to be really, really nice for the Rockies leading into the Estevez punch there. And then there are the new closer, Colome there. Adrian asks, what's the word on Oberg? Him and Sheffield are the only ones I trust. Scott Oberg is such a tough story, such a heartbreaker. I don't think you're going to get any. I'm not counting on Scott Oberg to pitch ever. I could be wrong. I might be missing reports on things. I might not have seen something. But unfortunately, just with that blood clotting stuff, however, if the Rockies get Scott Oberg back, and Scott Oberg is able to contribute to this Rockies bullpen, that's a major X factor. Now, how will he be coming off of the health issues? How will he be coming off to the other issues? Yeah, Devin corrected me. I was saying 7th, 8th guy for our previous conversation there, but Oberg would be a really interesting X factor. I mean, he was special. I mean, I don't know if it was like greatest thing we've ever seen, super X Factor special, but I think he had great stuff out of the pen and a great mindset for the game and just a good locker room presence. So I'm glad that the Rockies still have him involved with the organization. But let me do a quick Google to see if there's been anything about Scott Oberg getting back into the into the league. The last thing. Let's see. Here's something from October. Let's see. From the Gazette, the Colorado Springs Gazette. Yeah, so this was post Rocky season last year. Here, Danielle Allen Tuck, friend of the show. Scott Oberg watched each day as his teammates left the clubhouse and ran the dugout stairs onto the field. For most of his career, he was right there with them. Instead, he observed games from the TVs in the clubhouse last season, with his teammates playing just a few feet away from him. A fourth bout with blood clots in March sidelined him again for the entire year, threatening the career he built for himself. He could have just gone home to New Jersey for the year and watched games from the comfort of his living room couch, but that's not who he is, though. Instead, he became everything from a scout to an analyst to an extra coach. Most importantly, he became a mentor to everyone from the rookies all the way up to veteran Daniel Bard. Oberg isn't giving up on the possibility of being able to play again. This offseason will be filled with tests and meetings with doctors as they try to zero in on the problem that has halted his 4th season. He knows what the odds are, but no matter what happens, he wants to find a way to remain around the sport. Baseball is always going to be on my mind. It's been on my mind since I was a kid and since I started playing. So again, that's just a brief search, but I think you're getting your answer there. That Scott Oberg most likely not going to be pitching for the Rockies, but absolutely love what he has done for the organization. I mean, there's a picture of Scott Oberg with his stuff. I mean, he's a team. Let's see. Here we go. Here's something from March 27th. The Rockies team representative Scott Oberg in a unique situation for supporting Union during the lockout. Patrick Lyons wrote about this. over there on the DNVR website. You can go check that out. So Scott Oberg, as I'm sure. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, I haven't seen anything, but it sounds like the role of Austin Gomber was a mentor and a bunch of other stuff for the Rockies, and that's really really cool for the Rockies. It's really awesome for someone to buy in like that and to want to keep themselves active and engaged in the game and their team. I mean, like Danielle was writing there in that piece, the Rocky Scott Oberg, after blood clots sidelined him again, hopes to stay in baseball. It's really cool that the Rockies had Scott Oberg still play such a good role in the team. And you can tell how much he was respected by people because of the fact that he was a mentor to not only our young guys, but to the veterans as well. And to be able to talk to, I think it's valuable for someone like Daniel Bard to be able to talk to a vet like Scott Oberg, and they can, two very different stories, different stories of how they've both faced such different adversity as pitchers and as players and as people. I think those two people could really come together and see some common ground and be able to figure out and kind of discuss things. And I think that's just valuable, folks. Having people you can actually discuss the struggles of simple things that's going to be that might seem small, but can have such a major impact on your career and on your things going forward. But to be able to kind of shoot straight with people, especially with being like, I don't know what this means for my career, and I bounced back from this, and I was able to get back into the action. So Oberg, unfortunately, probably not helping the Rockies on the field in terms of pitching himself, but it sounds like he's been a massive support behind the scenes. Could pitch one day, hopefully. I'm doing a bunch of quick research here. Haven't seen anything about testing or anything like that. But one last question here before we wind down the show in the live chat here. Caleb Cole asks, who's going to pitch in the fifth spot now? Are we in trouble there? This is the big question. We've talked a lot about this here on the show. I think the loss of Jon Gray is going to be a bigger deal for the Rockies than we think. However, we'll have to see. They did go out and get a veteran arm in Cole. He's a veteran guy. For a lot of people would be a fifth starter anyway. You also have some young guys that you can turn to see. I think Peter Lambert was maybe injured or something like that. But my guess would be you will see Cole start the season as the fifth starter. I think the Rockies went out and did that to say, all right, let's get the veteran presence in here, and we can try to mess around and maybe get some younger guys in there, and especially a pitcher's going to get hurt, folks. Like, I don't want to hear. Hopefully you can hear that. I'm knocking on wood, but it's baseball. People do, injuries happen. So I just think the Rockies wouldn't make the Cole move without thinking that, all right, this is our veteran replacement to go out there and replace Jon Gray. So if you had to ask me right now, I think they're going to go with the veteran guy. But don't be surprised to see one of those young guys that we've seen, a Peter Lambert or Ryan Rollison as well. But that to say, are we in trouble there? I mean, that is a question mark. I mean, I think the Rockies will take a significant step back when the Rockies get to the back half of that rotation in terms of starters. But every fifth day, if you're not your best on every fifth day, but you're pretty darn good or good on those other four and can win those other ones, I think you'll be okay. But I will say that that fifth spot and Jon Gray leaving is going to be trickier than we think for the Rockies here. But we are going to wrap things up for the Locked On Rockies podcast today. The live chat's been popping off today, so shout out to Devin, Adrian, and Caleb for joining us today. You can join in on all the fun on YouTube when we go live by subscribing to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. We are also free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. I want to let us know. Pop into the live chat. I'll answer your questions live. Tweet at me. Tell me what you want to talk about on the pod. This is a show for Rockies fans like yourselves. Subscribe. Please go out and rate us 5 stars. And hey, help grow the show by telling your fellow Rockies fans that you love the show and they should tune in. Hey, if you want me to do things better, I'm going to be better. I want to be better about pronouncing names. I feel a little disappointed in myself today for not really having a lot of confidence in naming and someone that might be the starting closer for the Colorado Rockies. So help me get better by keeping me, with them, that constructive feedback and all that great stuff. Your support has been wonderful. We've been seeing some great numbers of some people. There's a lot of people out there excited for Rockies baseball, even though they might not tell you so. Follow me on Twitter at Paul Holden 33. Follow the show at LO Rockies. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast. Go out there and support all the other great podcasts on the Locked On Podcast Network, including Locked On MLB, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets. Of course, Locked On Rockies. There we go. The fourth one. All right. I'm Paul Holden. See you later.